channel. In this video today, we're going over the Magicka Sorcerer for High Elf. So let's go ahead and get into it. Maximum Magicka is 35.5k, maximum health is 20.1k, magic recovery unbuffed is 1.3, spell damage unbuffed is 3.5, and spell critical unbuffed is 38.9%, and spell penetration is 6.8k. So if we go ahead and get buffed up here, just go ahead and throw some things out here. Our spell damage goes up to 4.780, and our spell critical gets up to 64.7. I think that's where it will stop at. Pretty sure. Just to be on the safe side, though, I'm pretty sure it's 64.7. Yep. So we got 4.7k spell damage and 64.7 spell pen, or spell critical. My bad. Now, let's go ahead and dismiss these pets here so they quit fighting. Alright, so now I am a dark elf, so keep that in mind. My stats may look a little different than yours depending on your race. Now, when it comes to top tier or as high as you can get at DPS, your top three classes are High Elf, Dark Elf, and Khajiit. I believe in that order. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comment section. But honestly, if you're not really worried about that and just trying to have fun and immerse yourself in the game, you can be a Wood Elf. You know, they're stamina based, but by all means, they can be Magicka based. You can take them Magic class as well. Same thing with Orcs if you want an Orc Sorcerer. By all means, have fun with the game. And if you're not looking to do that top of the end score pushing, then just be whatever you want to be. But we have 64 points into Magicka, and that it's going to be no matter what your race is. And the boon I'm running is the Thief for extra weapon and spell critical rating. The food I'm running is the, well, it says ice cream, but it's the gassy eyeball. Basically gives us max Magicka and magic recovery. We have quite a bit of health at 20k, so I really don't need more than that. So I'm good on that. So I run just the max Magicka and magic recovery food at all time, which is about to run out. So now, when it comes to champion points, not much has changed in the green and red. Gilded Fingers, Fortune Favors, just for extra gold. Steadfast Enchantment reduces the charge of our weapons, or it gives us a 50% chance to not consume a charge when we use our weapon. And then for ones I keep on my bar, Treasure Hunter, increase quality of items you find in treasure chests, and Liquid Efficiency. We do use spell power pots in this setup. I will show you a way to get around that without them, but in this setup I do use them. And whenever you use a potion or a poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. And a stack of spell power pots, if you buy them, can run you 28k on PS4 or PS5 NA. So now, Treasure Hunter, this is really good to always have on your bar, especially if you're farming an item or farming a set, or if you're just trying to farm to sell. You know, this increases quality of items you find in Overland treasure chest, dungeon treasure chest, trial treasure chest. Doesn't matter. If it's a chest, Treasure Hunter gives you a better chance of getting a better quality item. Now, it doesn't mean that in a normal dungeon you will get a purple piece of jewelry or set piece. You still have that chance to get that platinum purple ring, but you're not going to get a burning spell weave purple ring or necklace in a normal. But it does give you a better chance of actually getting a set piece from that chest. So, and then we have Master Gatherer and Plentiful Harvest. Basically, while I'm waiting on dungeon queues or trial teams to form, I'm running around gathering, and this basically just reduces the time it takes for us to get nodes or harvest those resources by 50%, and gives us a 50% chance to get more resources from those nodes. Now, if you don't care about those, by all means, you can go with Steed's Blessing, which will increase your out-of-combat movement speed by 20%, and Rationer, which will add 30 minutes to your food or drink buff. Now, in the red tree, passive-wise, you have Defiance, Tumbling, Mystic Tenacity. Hero's Vigor is a really solid one and a must-have in the red tree. It gives us more max health. Sprinter, reduce cost of sprint. Hasty, increase your movement speed when sprinting. Tireless Guardian, Fortification, Savage Defense, Bash and Brutality. Honestly, Bashing Brutality and Savage Defense isn't really that big of a deal, because if we are in a position where we have to bash, we can always put, as a magic user, we can always put Crushing Shock on our bar, and we don't have to use our stamina to bash. We can just use that spammable to bash. So, and then we have Nimble Protector in here. Basically, when we're blocking, it increases our movement speed by 6%. Now, if you have the extra CP points, Temperate Soul. It's an awesome thing to have it basically when you get knocked down and you get rezzed. This gives you 10% more of your resources back. So you're not hoping for a shard, you're not hoping for an orb where your potions are not on cooldown or coming off of cooldown. You can get up and usually start your rotation again. So now, ones you keep on your bar: Balanced Vitality, more max health; Fortified, increases your armor; Rejuvenation; and Siphoning Spells. When you land the Killing Blow, you will get 1500 Magicka back. So it's really nice for sustain, especially when you're doing big pulls. Now, in the blue tree, passive-wise, we have Eldritch Insight, which gives us max Magicka; Precision for more critical chance; and then we also have Piercing, which gives us 700 offensive penetration; Flawless Ritual, 60% increase to apply martial status effect; and War Mage, which grants us 100 weapon and spell damage to magical attacks, effects, magic, flame, frost, and shock damage. Now, just a little tidbit info: if you have the extra CP, Blessed is really nice because using Surge, we do heal ourselves, so this just increases that healing done by 2%. So, outside of that, once I keep on bar, I keep finding Finesse on my bar at all times. This used to be 10%, but they've moved it down to 8% extra critical damage and critical healing done, but it's still one of the better ones to keep on your bar. Now, also keep Biting Aura, increase your damage done with area effect attacks by 6%. Master at Arms, increase your damage done with direct damage attacks by 6%, and Thermometer, which increases the damage done with your damage over time effects by 6%. This used to be 10, they lowered it to 6, so it did kind of take a nerf. But you can really use any of these that you want. Personally, I would use Biting Aura and Master at Arms, but you can swap out Thermometer or Deadly Aim if you want to use that. Backstabber, it increases your critical damage done by 10% against enemies you are flanking. Now, if you're able to stay behind the enemy, the tank isn't dancing. They are basically setting still. The mob is not running free, or you don't have a tank with happy feet, and you can stay behind them. This is a really good one to have. And like I said, just drop off Thermometer and place it with that one. Now, something that has piqued my interest, and I have not had a chance to try it out yet, unfortunately. I've played around with it on a dummy, but not so much in hard dungeons or trial scenarios, and that's Exploiter. Increase your damage done against off-balance enemies by 10%. I really with a sorcerer, you have Liquid Lightning if you want to apply some shock damage, or just put a shock glyph on, and that should be able to proc off balance by yourself. So, and plus with our AoE, what is it, Boundless Storm, it's shock damage, so we proc off balance pretty easily. So I haven't got the chance to try out this, but it definitely looks like it could be fun. So, now, sets. First set, Maelstrom Inferno Staff. This comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. It is worth getting in there and getting, and basically we run it infused on our back bar with a weapon damage enchant, and basically your light and heavy attacks deal additional 1.3k damage to enemies in your wall of elements. Now, if you have trouble light attack weaving with this, or light attack weaving in general, then you're not really going to get the effects out of this. I would still run Maelstrom Arena so you have it once you get to that point where you're comfortable with it, but if you're not light attack weaving, then this isn't going to be as beneficiary to you as, let's say, just keeping the 5 pieces. So, having 2 5 pieces instead of 1 falling off. So you'd rather have that 4 piece, and you can say 5 piece as well. But the first 5-piece set that we're running is Inferno Staff, or the weapon that we're running on our main bar is Inferno Staff for the Ritualist. This is the Unleashed Ritualist set, and this comes from the Cauldron. I want to say it comes from the Cauldron. I believe I am right in that. Just to make sure, yes, it does come from the Cauldron. Awesome little set for a sorcerer. Basically, we're running a Precise with a flame damage enchant. And what this does, it gives us max Magicka, max Magicka, max Magicka, and dealing damage to an enemy applies Ritualist Smart to them for 10 seconds. Enemies with your Ritualist Smart take an additional 15% damage from near summoned pets. We're running 2 pets, plus we have our Atro and our monster set. So we have 4 pets that can, at any point in time, deal a ton of damage. And this is just, they all get buffed from this set. So it's just a really nice set to have. Now, like I said, for the monster set, Maw of the Inferno. This comes from Banished Cells 2. It's a pretty easy one to go through. The final boss can kind of be a pain, but as long as the tank is keeping the infernals away from you at the end, DPS should be able to burn down the boss no problem. So we're running 2 light pieces on the helmet and shoulders with max magicka both defines. And one piece gives us max magicka. When you deal damage with a light or heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to summon a fire breather Daedroth, 15 seconds. The Daedroth attacks deal 2.3k flame damage every 2 seconds. Daedroth can only be summoned once every 15 seconds, and its damage scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. So as your spell damage gets buffed up, this will hit harder as well. So for Unleashed Ritualist, we're also running it on the waist and divines, gloves, and boots divines with max magicka. Now, for the second 5-piece set, we're running Zovgans. Zovgans Warband. Awesome little set, comes from False Vault. It is the medium armor set, so the easiest way to get this would probably just run like 2 pieces on the body, chest and legs, divines with max magicka, and then run jewelry. I've got 3 bloodthirsty, all with spell damage, but you could definitely go 1 infused, 2 bloodthirsty, 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty. It's up to you on what you want to do. So Zovgans comes from Frostfault, and what it does, it gives us critical chance, offensive penetration, and when you deal critical damage, you gain a stack of precision, increasing your critical chance by 170 for 5 seconds, up to 10 stacks max. At max stats, you also gain minor force, increasing your critical damage done by 10%. This effect can occur once every half second. Now, I like this because you can run it on your front bar. You can definitely run an Inferno Staff of the of Zovgans, and then just run Unleashed Ritualist all on the body if you wanted to. I just went ahead and run the 2 body pieces because it was easier. I was using the Fire Staff on another character at the time, so I just kind of threw the 2 body pieces on and went with this setup. I haven't had any troubles out of it, any problems at all. It basically works the same for me. It's because this right here is a set that basically it puts the mark on for 10 seconds, so you can really front bar this set or front bar Zovgans. It doesn't matter which one, as long as you have 5 light, 2 medium, or you can even go 3 medium, 4 light, because we do get some offensive penetration from Zovgans. So with that offensive penetration, it's not as big of a deal if you're running 3 medium and 4 light. So mix and match however you like it, but this is just a setup that I'm having, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Now, well, I guess if you do not want to use Zovgans, like you don't want to farm Frostfall, or you just don't care, there are a couple sets that you can use to replace that. One of them being from Archcranium, and that is Medusa. It's a heavy armor set. Again, you will have to transmute the jewelry because they come in healthy and either bloodthirsty or infused. Basically, it gives you a bunch of critical chance, and it also gives you minor force at all times, but only while you're on that bar. So this is a set that you definitely would want to run jewelry and the weapon, because you don't want heavy armor pieces on the body. With as much health as we have now, having extra heavy pieces doesn't really benefit us at all as a DPS anymore. So you definitely want the weapons and the jewelry. And the unfortunate situation with this is once you bar swap, minor force does go away. Now, if you want a easier set to get that is not where you can just get it overland, Griffin's Ferocity. It's a medium armor set, so it's again another set you'll have to transmute, but it gives you critical chance, spell damage, and after you deal direct damage, you gain minor force and minor expedition for 10 seconds, increasing your critical damage done by 10%, and increase movement speed by 15%. You won't get as much crit from the other, from Medusa and Zovgans, but at least this way, it's a pretty easy set that will give you minor force. So especially if you don't have Trap Beast, or if you just don't want to farm Frostfault for whatever reason, Ferocity is a good set to replace it with as well. If you don't necessarily care to buff your pets and you want to go more just for your pure damage, you have Scathing Mage, which is from Imperial City Prison. You have Burning Spellweave, which is from City of Ash, which is probably the easier one to get out of those two. Or one that I actually like playing around with lately is Drawkins. Gives you max magicka, offensive penetration, magic recovery, and increases your damage done by 330, but reduces your healing taken by 10%. My mistake. I have not checked this set out since the update, and it looks like they have changed this set. I do not recommend this set because it used to give 650. So don't use that set anymore. My mistake. But yes, just to look here, just to make sure I'm not losing my mind. City of Ash, Burning Spellweave, Max Magicka, spell damage, critical chance, and this will increase your weapon and spell damage by 461 blue. So purple, you're probably looking at around 480, 489 or so. So, and then of course in Imperial City is I. So where is it? There it is. Um, Scathing Mage is another solid one. Gives you max magic, critical chance, and when you deal direct damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your weapon and spell damage by 486 for 5 seconds. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. So you really can't go wrong with using either one of them. So, just up to you on which one you want to use for that extra power. Or, you can go Griffin's Ferocity, craft your jewelry, and if you don't have the Maelstrom stuff, like if you're not light attack weaving, it's not that big of a deal for you to have it. But you can craft you some New Moon Acolyte. It's going to give you weapon damage, it's going to give you penetration, it's going to give you a lot. And then just run Griffin's Ferocity. Jewelry, 2 pieces on the body, and you're good. New Moon weapons, and you can blow through it. Maw the Infernal is an absolutely amazing monster set to have. But if you're not light attack weaving, again, this is based off your light and heavy attacks. It's not going to be as beneficiary for you because you're not going to have as much of an uptime on that Maw as you'd like. And in that situation, or in that case, you can always swap it out for something like Elambris, which is where you have max magic, and when you deal flame or shock damage, you have a 33% chance to summon a meteor shower that deals 598 flame damage and 652 shock damage to all enemies within 4 meters every 1 second for 5 seconds. Or you can go with Falcon Scoria here. It gives you penetration when you deal damage. When you deal damage with a damage over time effect, you have an 8% chance to summon a meteor that deals 5.2k flame damage to the target and 1.8k flame damage to all other enemies within 5 meters. Outside of that, when it comes to basic dungeon monster sets, Nerenth isn't a bad one. Gives you weapon and spell damage when you deal direct damage. You have 15% chance to summon a Leech Crystal that explodes after 2 seconds, dealing 5.5k magic damage to all enemies within 4 meters. And then, honestly, outside of that, when it comes to magic sets, I can't really think of another, like maybe Groftar, but you would have to be close. And if you, as a magic user, most people tend to stay back in ranged, so you're really not going to get the effect out of this either. But that doesn't mean you have to go with something like this. You can always go 1-piece Slime Crawl and 1-piece Falcon Scoria for a little penetration, or 1-piece or 1-piece Nerenth with Slime Crawl. You can mix and match and just kind of go with whatever you want. You don't necessarily have to use 2-piece monster set. You can definitely go 1-piece more Max Magicka and then some weapon and spell damage, or 1-piece crit or 2-piece crit. Doesn't matter. You can have fun with it. By all means, just have fun with it. That's the main thing. This is just a suggested setup, and I like this setup personally. But if you're not very good, or if you're not getting there with your light attack weaves, Maw the Infernal ain't going to do you any good, so I would replace that. And there's no point in going with the Inferno staff if you're not light attack weaving. Now, skills. Crystal Frags is what we're using as a spammable. It still procs itself. So when you cast Crystal Frags, you still have a chance to proc the one where you can just instant throw it. But you conjure dark crystals to bombard an enemy, dealing 8.1k magic damage to your next non-ultimate ability cast within 3 seconds costs 10% less, while slotted casting a health, magic, or stamina ability has a 33% chance of causing your next crystal fragments to be instant and deals 66% more damage and costs 50% less magicka. Daedric Prey. Curse an enemy with a destructive ruin, dealing 9.4k magic damage to the target and 4.6k magic damage to all other nearby enemies after 6 seconds. While this curse is active, your pets deal an additional 20% damage to the target. You can only have one Daedric Prey active at a time. So, for your pets, this is your Storm Atro, both your pets here, and the Maw of the Infernal that comes from the monster set. Like, all that gets that extra 20% done to that target that has this on. Endless Fury. Call down lightning to strike an enemy, dealing 2.9k shock damage. And if the enemy falls falls to or below 20% health within 4 seconds of being struck, an explosion deals an additional 10.9k shock damage to them and 2.5k shock damage to other nearby enemies. If the enemy is killed within 5 seconds after seconds of being hit with this ability, you restore 4.8k Magicka. Now, we have these pets. We use Summon Volatile Familiar. I never activate this. I just don't. Because one, it stuns, and when it stuns, the tank can't pull in the mobs to the group. So it's it can create a rift there with the tank. He might start getting frustrated. But for the most part, the damage that it does with the cost of the Magicka, it's just not worth it. So it's really just there for the pet itself to deal extra damage. Now I do activate the Summon Twilight Tormentor at the beginning of the fight. You call in Ezra to send a Twilight Tormentor to fight at your side. Twilight Tormentor zaps, deal 2.4k shock damage, and his kicks deal 2.4k shock damage. Once summoned, you can activate the Twilight Tormentor's special ability for 2.5k Magicka, causing it to deal 53% more damage to enemies above 50% health for 15 seconds. I usually start with this. It's one of my pre-buff, and then after that, I really don't cast it again. Maybe if the boss is around 70-80%, and then I'll cast it. But if that boss is between 60 and 50%, I just don't even bother with casting it. I just save the Magicka. So, front bar, Fiery Rage, create a Catalytic Storm target location that builds for 2 seconds, then lays waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 9k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. So, back bar, Blockade of Fire, slam your staff down to create a flame barrier in front of you, dealing 1k flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. This is what allows our Maelstrom staff to really allow us to deal that extra damage with our light and heavy attacks. So we want to keep this down as often as possible. And then we have Degeneration. I think once this is fully leveled up, it was fully leveled up, but after the buff, it just kind of, after the patch, it's just one of those abilities for me on certain characters that got dropped to like rank 1. It didn't even get unmorphed, it just went back to rank 1. Like everything else on my bar is still ranked up, it's just not that one. I don't know what happened. But I think it will last for 14 or 15 seconds after it's fully ranked up. So it kind of falls in line with this. But Degeneration, bind an enemy with chaotic magic, dealing 13k magic damage over 12 seconds. Excess magic spills out from them, granting you Mage Brutality and Sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. Then we have Boundless Storm. Manifest yourself as pure lightning, zapping nearby enemies with electricity, dealing 821 shock damage every 1 second for 30 seconds. While in this form, you also gain Major Resolve, increasing your physical resistance and spell resistance by 5.9k. Activating this grants you Major Expedition, increasing your movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. So, and then of course we have both pets double barred, and then we have our Greater Storm Atro. Summon an Immobile Storm Atronach at the target location. Its rival deals 7.9k shock damage and stuns enemies for 3 seconds. The Atronach zaps the closest enemy, dealing 3.7k shock damage every 1 second. An ally near the Atro can activate the Charged Lightning synergy, granting the ally and the Atronach Major Berserk, increasing their damage done by 10% for 8 seconds. Now, when it comes to these two, you can really swap them around if you want to, but they should both be 14 seconds before it's over with. But you'll basically Blockade of Fire, Degeneration, Boundless Storm. Basically, you'll cast Boundless Storm every second rotation. Now, if you do not want to use weapon power pots, it's perfectly fine. You get Major Brutality or Major Sorcery from Degeneration here. So you're good. And then also, you can get rid of Endless Fury and just put on Inner Light, and that will give you the Major Prophecy and Major Savagery, increasing your weapon and spell critical rating. So, you won't have an execute, but at least in this situation, you can get away with just using trash pots, if that's what you want to do. Now, if you don't want to get rid of this, I would get rid of the Summon Volatile Familiar, by all means. You can ditch this for Inner Light. You can put Inner Light on your bar, and then on your back bar if you want to provide a little extra heal, Critical Surge. There you go. Critical Surge will give you a Major Sorcery as well. Plus it will provide you with a nice little heal, and then Inner Light on your front bar, which give you your Major Prophecy. This is a setup that I would roll with if I wasn't using weapon power pots, and this is a setup that I use quite a bit if I'm doing normal dungeons, or even some vet dungeons like Fungal Grotto 1 on vet, or like any of the base game dungeons on vet. for a lot of times, I'll just go with this setup. There's nothing wrong with it. Um, but when it comes to the DPS wise in general for both of them, I did 2 different tests. So on the first one, I did the setup that you see here without the first pet, 46.7k. 46.7k was with this setup right here. I never casted this because I was getting my major sorcery from Degeneration. I did cast it originally before I went into battle, and then after that, I never really needed to recast it because Degeneration was always up with major sorcery. So I wasn't really too concerned about this after that. So I will say that. Now, 46.7k, and then without that, it was 49.3 with the original setup, where we're using 2 pets. So 2 pets was slightly better just by a couple thousand. So it's entirely up to you on how you want to run it. But when it comes to the setup that I was running that pulled the most at 49k, it was this setup right here. And this is how I basically did it. You have your pets out. I pop a pot, drop my Atro over there, and then I would hit Twilight Tormentor, drop my Blockade, and then buff up Prey, and then just start spamming Crystal Frags. Once Daedric Prey gets ready to burst, I would recast it, bar swap, Blockade, Degeneration, bar swap. Usually one more frag, and then Prey would go off, and then I'd just cast another one, and then I'd just keep it going. Just like that. It's very simple. Prey, Degeneration. There we go. And then Boundless Storm every second rotation. If I had it, Crystal Frags. And you just keep it going. I'm out of Magicka. I don't have my food on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a very complicated rotation at all. It's very easy. Honestly, you don't even need to activate the damages from your pets. So it's essentially Blockade of Fire, Degeneration, Boundless, Bar Swap, Prey, Crystal Frags. Light attack in between. Use your potions when you have them. And then when it gets to around 20%, I usually do one more, Pray, and then just start throwing Endless Furies. Light attack, Endless Fury. Light attack, Endless Fury. Kind of like this. So once it gets to around 20%, it's just Light attack, Endless Fury. Light attack, Endless Fury. And when I have that extra Crystal Frag, when it procs, I'll throw it. And then just go back to Endless Fury. That's it. And it usually blows up relatively quickly. But that's pretty much it. I love this setup. Inferno Ritual, the Unleashed Ritualist set, is definitely slept on when it comes to pet sorts because it's just awesome. So, and Zovgans, of course, I used Zovgans because I didn't have the room for Barb Trap. At least not on my bar. There's nowhere for it with what I have. So Zovgans just made the most sense. Or Medusa or Griffin's Ferocity. And if you don't want to boost the pet's damage, but you just want to boost your damage in general, Burning Spoweave, Scathing Mage. So yeah, that's pretty much the setup. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have something better, let me know. And until next time, take care.